Now to Iran. Women there fighting for their rights as protests continue after the morality police reportedly killed 22-year-old Mahsa Amini for not wearing a head covering. According to CBS, Iranian security forces have killed at least 185 people, including 19 children, as they attempt to crack down on the unrest 1 month after Amini's death. Joining us now is counterterrorism and foreign policy expert and editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
These protests, again, a month after the killing, but at the same time, the protests seem to be getting even worse. I understand over the weekend, a state-run live TV was hacked by protesters. Protests now in Iran have spread to the oil and gas sector. That's new. And also, I thought this was interesting. We're seeing some of the signs from protesters here, but there's a banner in Tehran that reads, "We are no longer afraid, we will fight." Bring us up to speed on what's going on, and are these protesters actually going to be able to elicit change?
They're entering the 4th week of protests as protesters become more courageous, more brazen, and more violent. And on both sides, they're becoming more violent. The crackdowns have become extremely violent. And I guarantee you the death toll on the number of detained is much higher than the Western media outlets are able to report or able to get information on. As we know, the internet is still spotty. The government is shutting it down. The Achilles heel of this government will always be the people and their potential to come out and cause a revolution the way that it happened in 1979, but now they know that the people are extremely disenchanted with the government. Yes, it did start out as a women's movement in light of the catalyst, which, as you mentioned, was the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini for showing some hair and not wearing her headscarf properly. And women did come out, and they do come out, but so are the men. And it's going on across the country. So this is probably the most outstanding chance that the Iranian people have had in 43 years to topple this regime. As I said, they're going into the 4th week. They're not backing down anytime soon. The protests are going on across the country in all types of cities. It's not just a urban Tehran-based protest. This is going on in all parts of the country, all ages, all sectors. And as you mentioned, today was the start of not just the protest, but a strike of the petrochemical workers. We're seeing strikes by government workers. This will mean it will be a very serious problem for the regime as parts of its work and industry start falling apart, people not going to work, people continuing to protest on the streets, people setting fire to besiege headquarters and police cars, and again, the crackdowns becoming much more violent as a result.
Lisa, how long do you think the government will continue to try to fight back before actually saying, okay, it's time to make some serious changes here? Because as you pointed out, the protesters are becoming more and more emboldened as the days go on.
Right. This is a very difficult dance for the government because at times over the last 43 years, they have backed down just a drop to give off the appearance very duplicitously, trying to give off the appearance of becoming more, tame as they kind of back off from the protesters in order to have it fizzle out. And at times they become more violent and it becomes bloody and they start attacking, as they did last weekend in Sharif University. There are many, many different parts at play here, but the Iranian people are asking the West for support because they know that they need an extra catalyst. They need another factor to come in here in terms of international support. There are no guns on the streets of Iran. The protesters are doing this by themselves, grassroots, trying to organize without the internet, trying to organize without weapons or a true network of organization. But yet they have managed to hold on for a month, and they hope that this movement is not in vain. But again, they're asking for the West, first and foremost, not to just give verbal support, but to walk away from the nuclear deal, not to give billions of dollars to this regime, and of course, to find a creative way to get that money, get the resources to the Iranian people by bypassing their government and getting the Iranian people the help that they need to take this movement to the next step.
Lisa, what do the protesters, what do Iranians want out of this movement? What would be, if they got what they wanted, what would that be? You have about 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's absolutely regime change. It's a very, very simple message. As I said, over the last 43 years, there have been many different catalysts that bring the people out onto the streets. But once they are out on the streets, the message is always the same. You hear slogans like "Death to the dictator." They say enough is enough. They recognize that the only way that there will be absolute change is to remove this government. They're telling us that this government doesn't match the people of Iran. They just want freedom. And I'll say this movement is not tied to any political party. It's not left or right. It is a pure Iranian people's movement to remove their government and to get the freedoms that they're asking for.
All right, Lisa Daftari, thanks so much for joining us. I also noticed that protests are also now happening in San Francisco. So also in America, people from the West are trying to help those
all over the United States.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. All right. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.